Excellent. Well, we're here at just past the 7 o'clock mark, so I'll just start with an official welcome to everyone to Decolonizing Ourselves, Learning Through Stories, an event that's being coordinated by the KAIROS Prairies North Decolonization group, and that's happening this evening and also on Thursday evening. My name is Amanda Dodge, and I'm a member of the Decolonization Group, and that's part of my role as Program Director for MCC Saskatchewan. And I'm located in Saskatoon in Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis. We've been encouraging folks to, it's great to see some greetings in the chat, encouraging you, if you haven't already, to please note your location in the traditional territory that you're joining us from in the chat. It's great to see folks from across Turtle Island joining us tonight. Now, this event, as I mentioned, is coordinated by KAIROS Prairies North Decolonization Group, and I'll just quickly say a few words about KAIROS. KAIROS is an ecumenical movement for human rights with participation from a range of Christian denominations. And its Prairies North region encompasses Saskatchewan, Alberta, and Northwest Territories. And the KAIROS Prairies North Decolonization Group is made up of settlers with the goal of facilitating educational conversations among other settlers, primarily those from Christian faith communities, about decolonization and systemic discrimination. With the guidance of and in partnership with elders and knowledge keepers, we coordinate events to educate and equip learners for action in the work of decolonization. And we've been doing this work for a little over 5 years. And in that time, we've coordinated 9 events, including this one. So this event, Decolonizing Ourselves, Learning Through Stories, came about because we've learned that winter is the traditional time for storytelling, a time to gather, to listen, and to reflect. And this evening also came about due to the generosity of the Office of the Treaty Commissioner here in Saskatchewan. We have been working with the Treaty Commissioner, Dr. Kathy Walker, who guided us in shaping this event and connected us to the venerated storytellers that we're going to be hearing from. Without her support, this event would not be happening. We're so grateful. This event is spanning 2 evenings. So tonight we'll be hearing from poet Louise Halfe, sharing the story of Rolling Head. And on Thursday evening, we'll be hearing from Dr. Walker and educator Simon Bird share the story of Siku's Weasel. And both are creation stories that have relevance to decolonization. So here's what you can expect from this evening. We're going to move now to a treaty land acknowledgement and an opening prayer. And then I have the honor of introducing Louise, and we'll hear her tell the story of Rolling Head. After the story, we're all going to be put into small groups, into breakout rooms, and in the breakout rooms, we'll be having story circles. So this is a time to reflect on the story and what it's meant for you, how you interpret the story. And after the story circles, we'll come back together as a large group and share some of our reflections in the chat. And then we'll move into a closing. So that's what we've got planned for this evening. So without further ado, I'll introduce Jordan Cantwell, who's a fellow member of the KAIROS Prairies North Decolonization Group and is the growth animator for the Prairies regions for United Church of Canada.
Thanks, Amanda. It's my privilege to offer our territorial and land acknowledgement today. I am sitting in Saskatoon, so I'm in Treaty 6 territory, and I'm also in the Métis homeland here. And where I am is the homeland of the Round Prairie Métis. And the signatories to Treaty 6 were the Nehewak, the Nakaway, the Nakota, Dakota, Lakota, and Dene peoples. And so I am grateful to live and work and to be on this land. And as I think about what that means to be a treaty person, to be really a settler on a land that has been home to others for generations, for me it means learning about the land itself. It means learning about the people of this land, and what it means to walk on this land in a good way, and what it means to be a good relative. And so that is lifelong work. And work that we're all part of here today. And I just want to acknowledge today where I am sitting, there's a great big snowstorm going on outside. It's blowing, it's cold, it's treacherous out there. And and that causes me to give thanks. That causes me to give thanks to the land that reminds us that there is a time for going inside and 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 not being out and about, but gathering together and to listening to stories. That's what this time is traditionally for, is for listening to stories. And the weather is reminding us, go inside and listen today. And so I'm grateful for that and grateful for the wisdom of the land that teaches us through the seasons and through the plants and the animals so much about what it means to live in a good way and to walk in a good way. And so I invite you to take a moment to think about the land that you are on. It is Indigenous land. Uh, think about if there are treaties that include this land, what it means for you to live on that land and be part of those treaties, um, what it means for you to live in right relationship with the earth and the creatures of the earth, and what it means for you to live in right relationship with the peoples who were here um, before your peoples, if you are not Indigenous, or what it means for you to be Indigenous to this land, and to share it now um, in together, guided by treaties, what it would mean for all of us if we upheld those treaties as they were intended. So just take a moment to think about that. If you want to write a word about that in the chat, you feel free to, but you don't need to. Seeing words like grateful and remember, and and we do these land acknowledgements not just as a sort of here's how we begin the meeting, but because we need to remember, and we need to remember how blessed we are, um, and we also need to remember that we are bound by the relationships that have been made and by the treaties that have been made, um, and those need to shape our living on this land. So may it be so. I'm going to turn it over now to Brandy Bilodeau, who's going to give our opening prayer. Brandy is the Indigenous Rights Coordinator for KAIROS Canada, and she is living in Brantford, Ontario. So I am going to um, turn it over to Brandy.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here today. Okay, so to our Creator and our ancestors, we gather here today with respect and humility and thankful for the opportunity to come together in this space and at this time. We want to acknowledge the land on which we meet, the Indigenous nations who have cared and protected these lands, and our ancestors whose resilience, wisdom, teachings continue to guide us. We honor their sacrifices and the responsibilities they pass forward to each and every one of us. And as we begin this gathering, we ask for clarity of mind, openness of heart, and willingness to listen deeply. As we engage in the work of decolonization, may we be honest about the histories we carry, the systems we are a part of, and the impacts of our actions. May we have the courage to unlearn what harms, to confront uncomfortable truths, and to center Indigenous voices, knowledge, and leadership. May this time together strengthen our commitment to justice, accountability, and right relations with one another, Mother Earth, and with Spirit. Please guide our words, our actions, and our intentions so that they are rooted in respect, care, love, and responsibility to our future generations. We give thanks for this gathering, for each and every soul who took the time to be here for this evening, and for the teachings and discussions that will be shared, and for the collective work ahead of each of us. Chimiigwech.
Gwetch, Mercy, and thank you so much, Brandy and Jordan for Brandy for your prayer and Jordan for your territory acknowledgement. Thank you for starting our meeting in a good way. And now it's my honor to introduce Louise Halfe, our speaker and storyteller for tonight. As I said at the beginning, this is a winter evening. Snow is coming down around a lot of us, and I hope you're feeling cozy and comfortable because Louise Halfe is such an accomplished person that this introduction is going to take a moment, so get comfortable. Louise was born in Two Hills, Alberta. Her Cree name is Sky Dancer. She was raised on the Saddle Lake Indian Reserve and attended Blue Quills Residential School. She holds a bachelor's degree in social work from the University of Regina, as well as honorary degrees of letters from Wilfrid Laurier University, the University of Saskatchewan, and Mount Royal University. Louise has published multiple collections of poetry and is widely recognized for weaving Cree language and teachings into her works. Bare Bones and Feathers was published in 1994. It received the Canadian People's Poet Award and was a finalist for the Spirit of Saskatchewan Award. Blue Marrow was published in 1998 and was a finalist for the Governor General's Award for Poetry and won the Saskatchewan Book of the Year Award. Louise served as Poet Laureate of Saskatchewan from 2005 to 2006 and was awarded the Saskatchewan Centennial Medal in 2006. The Crooked Good was published in 2007, and the book was a finalist for the Pat Lowther Memorial Award, and it won the Saskatoon Book Award and the Saskatchewan Publishers Award. Burning in This Midnight Dream was published in 2016 and won multiple awards, including 3 Saskatchewan Book Awards and the League of Canadian Poets Raymond Suster Award. Louise was a 2017 finalist for the American Willa Literary Award, honoring women writing the West. In 2017, Louise was awarded the Latner's Writers' Trust Award for her body of work. Seke Hitwa, a collection of poems written across the expanse of her career, was published in 2018. In 2019, she was awarded the League of Canadian Poets Lifetime Achievement Award. Oasis, Pinky and Disheveled, was released in 2021 and was named CBC Books Best Canadian Poetry of 2021 and won multiple Saskatchewan Book Awards in 2022. Louise was awarded the Queen Elizabeth Jubilee Medal in 2021. She went on to serve as Canada's Parliamentary Poet Laureate in 2021 to 2022. Most recently, she received the King Charles Coronation Medal in 2024 and was awarded the Order of Canada in 2025. She lives outside of Saskatoon on Treaty 6 territory, and I'm excited to share that Louise has a new book coming out. We Tamawik, Tell Them, a book of essays and presentations, which she's holding up now, for which there will be a book launch event on Wednesday, March 4th at McNally Robinson in Saskatoon. I had the pleasure of meeting Louise in person last week and presented her with tobacco in recognition for the wisdom that she'll be sharing in her storytelling this evening, and with our great appreciation. It is just an honor to welcome you, Louise, and thank you for sharing with us this evening.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Kanaskup na gakyo anatskatipska tuta mego maatsumun. Aya inehiwayan mananigan nehiuskro aisnia unitiskapu nehoche. I always address my audience in my language first. I'm originally from Saddle Lake, Alberta, and I'm grateful and thankful that everybody's come to listen to this story. I'm going to read it from The Crooked Good, of which I've written the story, and I have I call my mother a spin, who's the storyteller. A spin means something to the effect like some time ago, and she narrates the story, and then the story evolves within the telling, how she shares it. So I'm delighted that this has been arranged through your program. Storytelling happens in a winter, and I think primarily because it's the quiet time of the season to sit and reflect, not because we can't tell the stories in the summertime because we're too busy. We're too busy collecting meat for the winter, roots and vegetables, whatever have you, making buckskin hide and all of that stuff. So life is busy in the summer for the great preparation of the winter storms, of which we're experiencing this evening. But I like it. I like the winter storm. I find it refreshing, actually. The ferocious wind and the snow blanket readjusting itself from our warm spell. But listen to the story. That's what this particular piece is called. We lived in tents, teepees, before the four walls, before the ugly, broken ears witnessed this story my mother a spin unfurled. A spin sat on a feathered buckskin blanket, fingers bent willows. She dipped in a pail for red stained roots, her voice rising, falling. Smoke curled toward the teepee's arms. Fire crackled in front of her. Kaya sa long, long ago, our people were filled with mystery and unexplainable powers. Eki matausichek. We listened, skewered, waited for this night, waited for the river to wear her ice-suet clothes, waited to wear our snowshoes and track rabbits, waited. The story gnawed, teased our infinite heavens. The strawberry veins wrapped and nestled our hearts. This rolling het Titipistaguan. Kaya sa a man and a woman left the main camp with their two boys. They traveled, thick into the forest. Thighs sucked in muskeg. The family fed the mosquitoes. They gathered blue and cranberries, pin and bunchberries, mushrooms, rose hips, mint and muskeg. Juncos, chickadees, nuthatches, and whiskerjacks flew, scolding. Squirrels hoarded pine cones and hazelnuts. In the thicket, bear, moose, elk, and deer watched. The family pitched their skin tent upon a promise of birch and aspen syrup, spruce needle chews. A creek sang itself into a gorge lake. Here shadows waved. Sagasdale peeled the night cloud, stretched into daylight. The man gathered his hunting tools, bannock and rabbit. He was gone all day. Baksamuta curled into the darkness and pulled up her night blanket. The man returned, supper unmade, wood untouched, his wife standing undone. Usbin took a swig of tea, poked the embers, studied her basket. Our moccasins slipped into our ears. We sat, tongues possessed. We learned how to feed the sky dancers we in fact, in the owl dance of their death. Drums and songs beckon them to rise and give them form. A spin crumbled a tobacco leaf, lifts it, feeds the fire. Her voice guttural, winds silent, flames creep, fix the air with small stares. The man asked the boys, what did they do all day? The thoughts wrestled and twisted out. Mother feeds us and scolds never to follow her. She give us work. Mouths pointed to the forest. For days, the father shadowed his wife's movements. One day she sat on a large log, sang, fists drummed. A snake slithered out, followed by small snakes. Excited tails flipping, squirmed under her warm hands. as he watched hard. He filled his bundle, tobacco, stone axe, arrows, and bows, gave his sons an owl, a flint, a rock, a beaver's tooth, told his sons the medicine secret to be used only when the sky was red. One day the man rose before the sun. He drummed the log. The man bellowed. His axe sliced the heads off each snake. At camp, his wife still asleep, he boiled broth, offered her the soup. Her lips smacked, thankful for the food. Our bellies became a storm of worms. We scratched our skulls. Hair strands fell into our infinite heavens. A spin's voice, a drumstick against our ears, stopped as we struggled to untangle her net. She drank tea, gulping slowly, pushed sweetgrass into the embers. The wind settled in her chest. The woman shrieked, her lover trickling down her mouth. The sky bled. The husband severed her head and cast her body to the heavens, and he too ascends. His body, the Milky Way. Her body dressed in streaks of green, purple, pinks, pale yellows. The bursting veins became the sky dancers. The head rolled, weeping. In the distance, the boys watched. When the sky darkened, they ran, bundles bouncing. A spin tucked us into a buffalo robe, brushed our cheeks with stained hands. We strained to see the rib-bone bodies where the heavens explode. I, Ikwiski, thought if I ate a passing star, a womb nest of shakers would love again. God for good fingers ate spirits and dance. Wapistagwand built a log shack of mud and straw. We lived on rabbit fetuses when a spin's blackness filled her. White hair courted snake hair truths. They drank from piss-filled bottles, sold all our horses, cattle, lost our land. Ukrainians hired us to pick sticks and stones and put up stoops. 3 persons, mechanic, Uspagan, I, Ekrisque, Wapan, lost our bundles, wandered the maggot streets, collected toys from thrown away sight, corded beneath blankets, beneath bars. 3-person made fatherless babies. They fought for her dangling breasts and learned to hate men with bad breath. Mechanic became a stingy recluse, chopped the tongues off his wives, his children caged to his pelvis. Usbagan hovered at the tree line, his crooked smile on his lump son's lips. Once in a billion stars we get a glimpse. I, Ekweski, and Wapan married white-skinned men. Babies held to our nursing breasts. Rib woman returned. Rolling Heads gave us her bundles. Slowly, a spin's words unfolded. Wapan buried Rolling Head in the serpents. Rosary wrapped around Rib woman. She ghost danced, beg danced, guilt danced, her strawberry crucified. Still the story followed. Chaos. Esa. And I, Ekweski, at dawn I slipped on thin shoes, checked my rabbit snares, asked the chickadees, the snow, the sky, if I filled my being with her breath, would I be butchered too? Would I give chase what my lions delivered? Would I be spurred? I kiss the stiff rabbits, throw them over my shoulder. I peel their skin, wrap their fur on aspen. My belly full, I remember the story. Kaya sa ekimatausatik inawak. Long, long ago, the people were filled with mystery and magic. A spin puffed on her pipe. The head wept, sang, rolled, bumbled along the trodden trails, their home eaten by fire. Flames leaped, raced toward her. In the distance, the boys heard their mother's terrible cry. They ran, ran, ran. Hearts raced, wind-burned throats, bones bend and stretch, their mother's breath at their heels. I, Ikwiski, my fingers raced around the pole, rabbit skin flying, eyes darted to finger to gone for good. Where was I to sleep this night? A spin's voice was sheets of forest rain, leaves baking in a ragged wind. Astamit Becky Wig, Nikusisak, come home, I love you, my babies, my sons. The head begged, their father's worth coiled, held them to their gut. Icy fingers through their father's owl, thorns, rosehip, brush, thistles, brambles, burrs sprung and crowned the rolling head. Hair caught, tangled in these claws, rolling head wept. She struggled, ripped her face, gouged her eyes. She called, called. Still the boys ran, ran, ran. A fox trotted by heart, a fox trotted by heart filled by the rolling head's wail. He led her through the pass. She rolled, rolled, rolled. Asta Nikususap. Her voice bee shit sweet. Still the boys ran. Asbin took a twig, relit her pipe, saw the story clench my eye, saw Wapan's inward look. Asbin began. With severed breath she sang, Nikusisak, Becky Wig, come home to your mother's hearth. The eldest boy threw a flint. Fire sprung behind them. Rolling head's face blistered bacon. Hair a burnt trail scorched the summer soil. Her breath the wind of flames at her son's heels. Gasping, the eldest son turned again through the rock. Mountains, rocky hills, steep crevices, ravines rose. She bayed, rolling back and forth, back and forth. I, Ikwiski, remember how Mother Aspin, gone for good, shot our 22 into the sky whenever she heard a coyote bark, an owl hoot. Our ears listened for those creatures of the snowy dark. Aspin slid her hands down Wapan's face, paused against my cheek. Oh, the chase! So long, so long. In teepee, dirt floor cabin in the city, the story followed. My memory sniffs the rolling trail. Gone for good, patted the earth, lifted arms toward the teepee's mouth. Snowflakes drifted through the parted skin. She sang for the rolling head. My babies, my sons, my little sons, come come home to your mother's hearth. The boys bled, moccasins eaten by their run, bellies empty, eyes swollen, they limped. Still a beaver's tooth flew, a great river formed. The boys walked, bellies rolled with water. They gave themselves to the night. Across the lake, Rolling had promised a large water bird marriage if she would spread its wings. The swan commanded her to stay still during the ride, or her lonesome bones would collapse and they would drown. A spin droned. I, Equiski, my big heavens strained. I strengthened my rabbit pole, laid the fur aside. The skins would be a quilt. The head clung, crushed the swan's back. The bird screeched, flopped, and flipped the rolling head. Deep, deep into the black depths, the rolling head became a surgeon. It flips its tail fin and devours the river's rotten flesh. Wapan and I, Equiski, nodded, sank into the waiting robe. We did not hear Aspin's final words. In sleep, this is where we go. The embers are starlight in memory's cave. Epise, all my relations.
Wow, thank you so much, Louise, for sharing that with us. And it's just sitting with all of us. And now we have an opportunity to connect with one another and to answer some reflection questions in breakout groups. Welcome back from the breakout groups. Welcome back, everyone who've joined us from the breakout groups and are returning now to the larger group. We hope that the story circles were a rich time for reflection and sharing, and that you were able to share some of the things that came up for you and the things that you got to hear the things that other people were learning and interpreting in the story. So now's the time where we want to open up the chat again, and hopefully that's available to folks. And at this time, we want to be asking, and this is a question that Louise has posed, is what did you get out of the story? We're hoping that some of you can be sharing in the chat in one sentence or maybe two sentences, some of the things that came up for you that you were sharing or discussing in your story circles in the breakout groups. What you learned from the story, what teachings or knowledge you took away from it, how it applies to our lives to decolonization. So great, we're starting to see at least one comment here in the chat, and we welcome others to share. So Shireen says she loved, or that they loved, the imagery from the story. Yes, Doug is asking about hearing the story again. And Louise mentioned that the book is available for us. For us to obtain, and also that the recording is going to be available after the event has ended. Yeah, some folks did miss the story altogether, and we did have some folks who were joining us late and thought the event started an hour later than it did. So we did have some people miss the story. Kim is saying, listen to the story, just listen. We're seeing a comment here about resonance. Another comment about benefiting from hearing the story again. This may be a recurring theme that we'd like the story to wash over us again. We'd like to go back to it and retread the journey that Louise just took us on. Okay, we're hearing a few other comments. And Louise, I welcome your thoughts on the comments that are coming up. We've got one here from Jen. The ancestors call out, come home, to the living Indigenous to return to their cultural customs. Cassandra, we felt there was a creation story element to it. Storytelling and hearing other stories can be a transcendent spiritual practice. Nabucco has a story, or has a question rather. Do all creation stories include loss and lament? Louise, would you be open to questions at this time, or would we rather sort of hear the comments and then have questions?
Actually, this book, I did my own analysis of the crooked head or the crooked sorry from the crooked good. I did I analyzed the story, and it's in this as as an essay in this particular recent release. So it may answer some of the questions that people are seeking, and yeah.
Well, that's good to know that we can read an interpretation in Louise's most recent book, and we can read the story again in Crooked Good. So we're going to come back to Nabucco's question. So let's hold on to that. Noreen says, I was sad that the mother was separated from her children and that they seemed afraid of her. Barbara said that one remarked that the mother's head was scary in another version, and in this one she was seductive. Well, that's interesting, seeing contrast from different versions of the story. Rhonda says, having a poet sharing the story gives us an opportunity to hear in unique ways. Well, that resonates for sure. There is magic and mystery, light and dark that coexist, from Shane. Okay. Monica would like to have had some questions while listening and had some distractions. Good. Shannon shared with us where we can find the crooked good. Valerie, one thing I took is the difference between the reliance on the written word and Indigenous oral tradition. Sheila notes that change is always happening. Disasters and violence. We need to find our spirit of survival movement. Barbara notes the seducing snake is reminiscent of the Judeo-Christian creation story. We wondered if this role for the snake was a result of contact. Okay, there's another interesting question posed. Seed is welcoming the recording. Didn't understand much of the imagery, sense of creation story, and has uncertainty there. Jen says the animals and all creatures are not viewed as natural resources. The rich imagery is like a tapestry. Okay, and we're seeing sort of, this difference. Some of the themes that we're picking up here is the difference between written and oral tradition. And we're starting to see some symbolism for what we see in our own society in terms of Judeo-Christian influence and European contact. Louise, any thoughts on what you're seeing here from what people are receiving from the story?
There's something I want to share from this particular book that David Suzuki wrote, and I footnoted, but he says spirit, and we know in my community, spirit is a powerful, mysterious word. In English, its meaning spreads like an invisible web through every level of existence. It is air, it is breath, and by extension, it is life and it is speech. It is the power of divine creation moving over the water, and it is divinity itself. Spirits are volatile, invisible, powerful, and some eternal. They may intoxicate, invigorate, inhabit, haunt, or they may express the essence of something. And above all, they animate the world. Traditional cultures live in an animated world. Mountains, forests, rivers, lakes, wind, and the sun may all have their presiding deities, while each tree, stone, and animal may have or be a spirit. The spirits of the dead may also be eternally present, acting powerfully in the living world, power part of the endless circle of time. And that's what he wrote. One of the things that occurred in one of my travels when I was in Italy, I was speaking to some handicapped students, and they loved the story. And their professor was had adopted two young men from Bangladesh, and that story was in their culture. The snake mythology is in many, many cultures, and it's a never-ending circle. And actually, the snake is a healer, and a lot of people perceive it as an evil entity because of what came into this island, a different belief system that the snake is a temptress. But everything has a duality, like everything: water, snow, fire, rivers, mud, all of it has a duality. We have the sacredness of water, which we drink, and it can also drown us if we're not careful. It floods the island, it floods, and, there's just a whole lot of teachings in this story that people may miss, that they can continue on in their life cycle, to explore those mythologies of snake mythologies, the power of the spirit in our culture, because everything is spirit, and we come from the stars, and our bodies are made up of the same substance as the stars, and so is the earth and all of creation. So I love this story. It always fascinated me as a child, and I think that's why I've carried it through. And I know other stories, but this one is one of my favorites.
Thank you so much, Louise, for that comment, and speaking to that question about the role of the snake, and then taking us to some deeper teachings there, about the kinship in the natural world, and duality, of the natural elements there. There's been some comments about, and there was a question about grief and loss and lament in creation stories. Would you be able to comment on that, on the role of loss and lament in creation stories? Louise? Wondering if I'm
Well,
coming through
sorry.
okay. Yeah, it's all right. We heard a question from one of the listeners tonight about the role of loss and lament in creation stories, and then grief is something that also came up in some of the other comments. Would you be able to speak to that? Whether loss and lament is a recurring theme in creation stories, and why that might be?
Everything's about transformation, isn't it? Like we transform from a physical body into the spiritual world, and the snake is about transformation. It sheds its skin. It listens to the earth. Um, I don't know exactly what the question is.
Certainly, it's Nabuco's question from
I
earlier in the
can
chat.
hardly hear you,
Oh,
Amanda.
I'm so sorry. I'll speak louder. Thanks, Louise. It's Nabuco's question from earlier in the chat, and she asks, do all creation stories include loss and lament?
This is part of the creation story for sure. Yeah. But that creation story, I understand, takes 4 years to tell and to share. I haven't had that privilege. I hear bits and pieces of it, but I'm not by any means an expert on this, and I wouldn't profess to be, but I just know this part of the story.
Oh, thank you. Well, and then we heard a few other comments in the chat that came in after we've been chatting so far. The imagery that people heard in the story took folks to a dark place. I'm starting with C. Peters' comment here, and also brought us into the beauty of the sky world. Felt the mother's sorrow and the children's fear. Barbara says that one of us in our group was disturbed by the use of the bear claws separate from the animal whom she had a long-time relationship with. Jenny says, so much dissonance with my culture, inviting me to let go of the barriers my culture teaches, like certainty, knowing how to behave, what is real and what is imagination, chronos and kairos distinct, separation of human and nature. Valerie says the story reflected the relationship with all creation, people, land, air, creatures, and the land. There's a comment here about the snake. Susan, I understand the story to be about non-human, nature-human relations, gendered relations and violence, and maternal-child relations. And Barbara says, I love this message that everything has positive and negative elements in a specific context. Thank you so much, folks, for sharing in the chat your reflections and takeaways. And Louise, any additional comments on what you've heard from the listeners?
There was something, when I traveled in Belize in the jungle with the natives there, and it was really interesting because the poisonous snakes there are the same color as some of the trees. And apparently, if you're bit by that particular snake, what you do is peel the tree's bark, and there's something inside that tree that it contains medicine that heals the bite, which I found fascinating. The other is that my grandmother used snake to heal people. And so it's about transformation. Everything is a healer. Beavers, I mentioned somebody mentioned the beavers. Beavers have body parts that are healers for us. All food is medicine depending on how you ingest it and use it and have a relationship with as well.
Thank you for pulling out these themes for us of transformation, of duality. Really appreciate your emphasis on that. And we have time now for some Q&A. For those of you who have questions for Louise about the story that we heard this evening, or I think in general. So are we okay, tech folks, for people to unmute themselves, or do we want people to put their questions in the chat? Maybe you can give us some direction in the chat about that. Oh, Denise is starting us off with a question. I think the mother was chasing her sons to get her medicine to make herself whole, question mark. So is that right? Or maybe that's not the right
Your
question.
guess is as good as mine.
Right was probably not the right question.
One of the things people need to know is, and I invite them to attempt to understand these words. We use the words for grandpa, nimosum, and grandma, nuhkum. Nimosum actually means the one who feels, has feelings, especially when children around their hat, they has feelings. Nimosum is Nimusitan, which is the word. It is derived from that word. Nimusitan, I feel from my heart. Nuhkum is Enuhak. Nuhkum is the one who nurtures and breastfeeds the child and his kindness. So when we refer to Nuhkum and Musum in our culture, the spiritual entities, these are kind entities that we refer to as my grandfather, my grandmother. And but in the physical world, the world that we walk in, we know them as Nuasum and Nukum, but those are the translations of that word. So yeah, just go for the questions. I'll do the best I can. It's been a long evening. I've been busy.
Can I jump in? Can I jump
sure.
in and ask a question? Hi, I'm Carol. I'm calling from BC, and Louise, I'm amazed at the visionary, the vision, the imagery. I loved watching you as you were reading the story because your whole body, you were using your body language, not just the words, but it was all of you. So your spirit and your energy really shone, and I really appreciate that because like the sign of a good storyteller is it comes from the heart, it comes from the soul, and that passion. But I'm curious, and it's not a but. How did you get into, like, you have some amazing awards, and you sound like a very, very gifted person. So what got you into doing the poetry stories? How did you get there? Did you have somebody that was mentoring you? How did you do this?
Actually, you know what? I'll tell you a little story as fast as I can. When I was a little girl standing on the side of the road waiting for the bus, one of my cousins asked me, "What are you going to be when you grow up?" I had no idea. I just said, "Well, I'm going to be famous." But I didn't know what that meant. Okay. I didn't have that kind of vocabulary. I just heard the word. It was like she used the word rambunctious. I think she was more literate than I was. I remember thinking, what does that mean? Anyhow, I was led to my writing career through spirit. And what I mean by that is I have dreams. I dream. I dream all the time. I have dreamt all my life. And that's when I first became aware that I was to write. But it took me another 20 years to figure out that first dream. So I had one dream after another guiding me to my writing life. And then when I went into ceremony with my elders, they reaffirmed those dreams and they reaffirmed my writing life without realizing that I was keeping a journal. And nor did I ever think in just keeping a journal that it would evolve. And what evolved was the poetry. And that's what led me to my writing career. So I've been very blessed with a rich life as a poet. And I value my contemplative time. People think writing is a luxury, and it may be to some degree, but we work hard at meditation and being open to the voice of the creator. We're the, I hate this word, channelers, so to speak, of what God is saying to us to pass on to the audience. We are not in control of it to some extent.
Mm.
Thank you for that question, and thank you for reaffirming my personhood. Thank you so very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you. I really appreciate listening to you, and thank you for the explanation, because it really is our dreams that move us forward. And so many people disregard their dreams, or they disregard the dreams of others and they almost step on them. So thank you for allowing us to be a part of your dream.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A good
I was very,
question.
I was very fortunate. I had a Jungian psychotherapist, a psychiatrist, when I was very wounded in my earlier years, and he was the one that taught me Jungian dreams. And we all have guardians. Some people call them angels. We call them Bawagan, which is the dream place in it up in here.
Mm. Thank you for that teaching, Louise, and for sharing your experience. We've got a couple other questions coming from the chat. Jackie asks, you talked about transformation, duality, two sides. Her question is there a trickster or a trick in the story?
I never thought of that. That's an interesting thought. I'll have to think about that. I don't think there's any tricks to the story. There's a lot of metaphors. And there's a lot of spirit in it, but I haven't seen the trickster in there. Let me think about it. Thank you for that question.
Yes, of course, and sounds good. Good question, Jackie. Nabucco asks, I was awestruck by the concept of story taking. I believe it was 4 years that Louise said it would take to tell the full story. The creation stories, how might it take? So this is Nabucco's question. How long might it take to actually learn the nuances of any story?
One of the things I have learned is repetition. And repetition doesn't mean it's always the exact word, but it's often the same teaching. So one has to pay attention to the repetition to marry the story, so to speak, and to be able to convey it. But I don't know what else to say about it. It's just a serious contemplation, I think.
Yeah, thank you, Louise. Okay, well, I welcome other questions that would pop in the chat, or if folks want to unmute themselves to ask a question. Otherwise, we also want to just really honor Louise's time. She's had a long day, and we may be moving now into a closing. Any final questions? Yeah, repetition. We want to hear this recording again. KAIROS will be able to send out the link to the recording to folks who have been who've registered. So that should be forthcoming. We're starting to see some thank yous. Okay, Shane has asked, why did the head roll off and turn into a sturgeon?
Turning into a sturgeon, that's our dream place. We are water. We return to water. That's our dream place. And the sturgeon is a bottom feeder. We are bottom feeders. We're the lowest of all creation. Because when we die, I mean, trees regenerate themselves, and so does the blanket of the earth. Um, but we physically cannot come back. We're spirit, and we're in the wind. My understanding is that everything that's ever existed on Earth, dinosaurs, insects, prehistoric Neanderthals, their breath is in the wind, and that my ancestors are in the wind, and we breathe them, and we expel them, and we're going to leave our breath in the wind as well.
Wow. Thank you so much, Louise. I'm starting to see appreciations come up in the chat, and I would welcome more. Let's move to our closing now. And Louise, we just want to thank you so much. We've received such rich teachings from you this evening that through the poem, through the story, through your other teachings that you've shared, as we've discussed now, teachings that are going to be sitting with us, like on our hearts and minds and in our bodies, and reflecting on them for some time to come. I just, on behalf of all of us, just want to thank you and hope you're seeing the comments in the chat with so many words of appreciation and some icons of hearts and applause that's coming up right now. Thank you for taking the time and giving us such a rich gift of your teachings.
Thank you.
On behalf of the decolonization group, we also just want to thank everyone who took the time to be with us this evening. We're just so glad you're all here. And I want to mention again how indebted we are to the Treaty Commissioner of Saskatchewan, Dr. Kathy Walker, who guided the planning of this event and connected us to Louise. There's a couple of sort of pieces that we just want to share as we close. First is an encouragement to complete an evaluation for this evening. This has become part of the patterns of the decolonization group and the educational events that we hold. We really want to invite input from people who have attended the events, and we take your input to heart, and they help us shape and plan future events. So the evaluation link was dropped in the chat. It's a Google form that will just take 2 or 3 minutes to fill out. And so we deeply appreciate it if you would take a couple minutes with that form. I did see a hand up, but then it went down. And if folks have any questions, feel free to direct message any of the co-hosts of this evening. And then, I wanted to close with a few words about KAIROS. KAIROS engages in faithful action towards peace and justice through an ecumenical collective with participation from a range of Christian denominations. And one area of focus they have is Indigenous rights. KAIROS Canada is committed to truth, healing, and reconciliation for the past and Indigenous justice for the present. We support an active process of decolonization within ourselves, our communities, our churches, and our country, seeking to build just and respectful relationships between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. And one of the important ways KAIROS does this is through its blanket exercise, which many of us are familiar with and have participated in. Now, for those of us who are in the Prairie region, again, this region is Saskatchewan, Alberta, Northwest Territories, one of the ways we act on our commitment to decolonization is through participation in this group, the decolonization group. If folks who have come this evening are interested in learning more about the work that we're doing and potentially joining us, please check out some information. Shannon has posted the KAIROS website in the chat, and please, we invite you to reach out to us. Our Gmail address is in the chat there, kairosprairiesnorth@gmail.com. And we're a pretty friendly group, and one of us would get back to you and answer any questions that you'd have, and heartily invite you to come alongside us in this work. And so with that, I think we're at the end of our time together, and just want to thank everyone for being here. I hope you're seeing additional words of gratitude in the chat, Louise, and hearts and words of appreciation for the gifts you've given us tonight. So go in peace all. Thank you for being with us.